The massive alien ship appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system like a shining jewel against the darkness of space. Its hull gleamed as it caught the distant sun's rays. The year was 2157, and humans had just begun reaching nearby stars with their ships. To the wider galaxy, Earth was still new and developing. Admiral Kim sat straight-backed in her chair at the meeting table. Her once black hair now had many silver streaks, and the lines around her eyes showed her 40 years in Earth's space fleet. She watched the alien delegates enter the room with a calm she didn't fully feel. The meeting room aboard the International Space Station had been specially prepared for this historic first contact. 7 different alien species filed in, each wearing special suits that protected them from Earth's atmosphere or provided the gases they needed to breathe. "Welcome to Earth space," Admiral Kim said, offering the formal greeting they had practiced for weeks. "We are honored by your presence." The translator devices worked smoothly as the aliens took their seats. The lead diplomat, Tannel, had a body that reminded Kim of an octopus, with 6 flowing appendages that seemed to float in the air. His skin was almost see-through, showing shadowy organs beneath. "The Galactic Confederation extends greetings to Earth," Tannel replied. "We have watched your development with interest." The first hour went well. They discussed trade, cultural exchange, and the basic rules of the Confederation. Earth would not be offered full membership yet, but observer status seemed likely. Then Tannel asked about Earth's military structure. "Our records show your planet has numerous armed forces," he said. "Yet they seem divided by nations and purposes. Please explain." Admiral Kim described Earth's military history and current organization. She explained how most nations maintain their own defense forces while also contributing to the United Earth Fleet. "And what becomes of your warriors when they age?" asked Nori, an alien with a hard crystal-like outer shell that caught the light as she moved. "They retire, usually with honors," Kim answered. "Many take civilian jobs or enjoy their remaining years in peace." Tannel's appendages rippled, and what the human diplomats were learning was a sign of confusion. "But they retain their training? Their knowledge of weapons and tactics?" "Of course," Kim said. "Experience is valuable. Many retired military personnel work as teachers, security consultants, or in government." The aliens exchanged glances that made Kim uneasy. "You're saying," Nori continued, her voice coming through the translator with a clicking sound, "that your former soldiers live among your general population? Without markings or separation?" Kim frowned. "Why would we separate them? They're citizens who serve their time." "And they maintain combat readiness?" Tannel asked. "Not officially," Kim replied, starting to see the problem. "But most keep their skills sharp. It's part of who they are." The room grew tense. The alien delegates huddled together, speaking in their own languages with their translators turned off. When they returned to the table, their body language had changed. Even through their environmental suits, Kim could sense their unease. "In the Confederation," Tannel explained, "military personnel are kept separate from civilian populations. When their service ends, they undergo extensive retraining to remove combat instincts." "We don't believe in erasing people's experiences," Kim said firmly. "Our veterans are honored members of society." Nori's crystal shell flickered with colored lights in what seemed like alarm. "So any human we meet might be trained to kill? Without any visible indication?" Kim tried to explain. "Having training doesn't mean they're dangerous. In fact, military discipline makes them." "What you describe," interrupted another delegate with 4 arms and towering height, "is a society where potential warriors hide among civilians. This is deeply troubling." The meeting deteriorated from there. What had started as a promising first contact ended with formal but cold exchanges. As the aliens prepared to leave, they handed Admiral Kim an official statement declaring Earth a civilization of concerning military structure requiring observation. It wasn't quite a threat, but it was far from the welcome they had hoped for. Walking back to her shuttle, Kim overheard Tannel speaking softly to Nori. The translation came through her earpiece clearly. "Their warriors never truly stand down. We must report this immediately." As she watched the alien ship depart, Admiral Kim knew they had a serious cultural misunderstanding to overcome. What Earth saw as respect for veterans, the Confederation saw as a hidden army. Making them understand the difference would not be easy. For 5 years, the alien ship stayed at the edge of Earth's solar system. They never came close, but humans always knew they were there, watching. The silvery dots that appeared on space radar screens became a normal sight for Earth's defense teams. Earth leaders tried to keep relations peaceful. They sent messages and small diplomatic missions to explain Earth culture better, but the aliens remained cold and distant. They only sent formal replies that said very little. During this time, Earth didn't slow down its progress. More colony ships left for nearby star systems. The space fleet grew stronger with new ships and weapons, though Earth was careful not to seem threatening. "They'll understand us eventually," Admiral Kim had said before her retirement ceremony. "We just need to give them time." But not all aliens were willing to wait and observe. Deep within the Confederation, a group called the Purifiers held secret meetings. Their leader, Merrick, had violet scales that darkened when he spoke with passion. "Humans are not like us," Merrick told his followers during one such meeting. "They hide their warriors among ordinary people. Any human colony could be a military base in disguise. We cannot allow them to spread further." The other Purifiers nodded in agreement. They had watched Earth closely for 5 years and grown more afraid with each passing day. "The Confederation Council is weak," Merrick continued. "They will study and debate while humans grow stronger. We must act now." The Purifiers made a careful plan. They would attack a small human settlement but make it look like another alien species did it. This would create conflict between humans and that species, keeping both busy while the Purifiers prepared for larger attacks. They chose Harmony Colony as their target. It was small, with only 5,000 people living there. The colony sat on a distant moon orbiting a gas giant far from Earth. It had just a few defense systems and only 20 active military personnel assigned to it. What the Purifiers didn't know was that Admiral Kim, now retired for 2 years, had moved to Harmony to be closer to her family. Her grandson had just turned 8, and she had promised to teach him about the stars. On the day of the attack, Kim was walking her grandson home from school. The boy held a model spaceship he had built, making whooshing sounds as he played. "Grandma, were you scared when you met the aliens?" he asked. Kim smiled. "Not scared. Just careful. When you meet someone new, you..." She stopped talking when she saw flashes in the sky. Years of military training made her recognize what was happening even before the colony alarms began to sound. "Come quickly," she told her grandson, taking his hand and running toward the nearest shelter. Above them, alien ships with disguised markings began firing at the colony's small defense station. The few soldiers on duty fought back, but they were quickly overwhelmed. In the main colony hall, people gathered in fear. Colony Governor Pack tried to keep everyone calm while working the emergency communications system. "Help won't arrive for at least 3 days," he told Kim when she approached him. "Our distress signal is sending, but we're too far from the main fleet." Kim nodded, her military mind already analyzing the situation. She looked around the room and saw familiar faces, not just civilians, but people she recognized from her years of service. Former pilot Seo was there with his family. Ex-Marine Captain Han stood near the door, his eyes constantly scanning for threats. The Purifiers landed their ships and began moving through the colony streets. They expected to find frightened civilians hiding in their homes. Instead, they encountered unexpected resistance. In her quiet voice that had once commanded starships, Kim addressed the crowd. "I see at least 50 veterans in this room. There must be hundreds more throughout the colony. We don't have many weapons, but we have something better: we know how to fight without them." The aliens thought they were attacking helpless colonists. They didn't know that Harmony Colony, like most human settlements, was full of retired military personnel who had chosen a quiet life but never forgotten their training. As night fell over the colony, Kim gathered the veterans around a makeshift map of the settlement. Her retirement had not dulled her tactical mind. "They expect surrender by morning," she said. Instead, let's show them what happens when you attack a colony full of Earth's retired warriors. The aliens moved confidently through the darkened streets, unaware that they were being watched by hundreds of experienced eyes. People who had spent decades defending Earth were now preparing to defend their new home, and they no longer needed anyone's permission to do whatever was necessary. The morning after the attack began, Commander Lozo led his purifier troops through the eastern section of Harmony Colony. He expected to find frightened humans hiding in their homes. His soldiers moved with confidence, their weapons ready but held loosely. This was supposed to be an easy mission. Then the ground beneath their hover tank shifted and collapsed. The machine tilted sideways into a hidden pit that hadn't been there during their scans. Moments later, something exploded against its side. What was that? Lozo demanded, his scaled skin turning pale with surprise. Some kind of homemade bomb, his second-in-command reported. Very basic but effective. The tank's hover system is damaged. Lozo's inner eyelids blinked rapidly in confusion. I thought humans surrendered their warrior status at retirement, he hissed. These are supposed to be simple farmers and workers. Across the colony, the purifiers found themselves facing not helpless civilians but organized resistance. Every street they entered had traps. Every building they approached had defenders who knew exactly where to aim. In the colony's large hydroponics facility, the purifiers found themselves soaked by high-pressure water sprays that suddenly turned on as they entered. The water carried chemicals that stuck to their environmental suits and hardened quickly, making movement difficult. Park, who had spent 30 years as a combat engineer before retiring to grow food for the colony, watched from a hidden spot as the aliens struggled. He had simply adjusted the irrigation system and added some fast-hardening sealant from the maintenance supplies. Nothing military-grade, just clever use of available materials. Zone 3 secure, he reported into a small radio. Moving to help at Zone 4. At the medical center, Dr. Lee worked quickly to treat the wounded. 20 years as a military surgeon before coming to Harmony had taught her how to work under pressure. Between treating injuries, she directed a team of defenders. Keep the north entrance blocked, she told 2 former soldiers. We can't let them reach the medical supplies. When a young colonist looked frightened while helping bandage wounds, Lee put a steady hand on her shoulder. I was scared during my first battle too, she said calmly. Focus on the task in front of you. That's all any of us can do. Throughout the colony, similar scenes played out. A retired communications officer managed to break into the aliens' radio frequencies. A former supply sergeant organized food and water distribution to all the defensive positions. Pilots who hadn't flown military ships in years found ways to use colony transports to move people and supplies quickly. Admiral Kim had established her command center in the colony's community hall. The large room had become a hub of activity, with veterans coming and going with reports and receiving new assignments. In 50 years of service, I never once needed permission to defend my people, she told a group of colonists as she handed out weapons collected from the colony's small security force and hunting supplies. None of us do. That's what the aliens don't understand. A former tactical officer named Quan worked beside her, marking a map of the colony with enemy positions. They're pushing toward the central hub, he reported. That's where the main colony systems are controlled. Kim nodded. That's where we want them. Send word to all sectors, fall back to the central hub positions. Make it look like they're winning. The purifiers thought they were making progress as resistance seemed to weaken. They pushed forward toward the central hub, the heart of the colony where all major systems were controlled. Commander Lozo led the charge himself, certain that victory was near. When they broke through the doors of the central hub, they expected to find civilians cowering in fear. Instead, they found themselves surrounded on all sides. Veterans who had served in a dozen different Earth conflicts stood in defensive positions, armed with a mix of security weapons and improvised tools. Admiral Kim stood at the center, straight back despite her age, looking exactly like the fleet officer she had been for decades. I suggest you put down your weapons, she said calmly to the surprised aliens. Lozo hissed in anger. What is this? You hide your warriors among civilians, this proves everything we believed about humans. Kim shook her head slowly. You misunderstand. These are not hidden warriors. These are citizens who once served as warriors and never forgot how. But you retired. Lozo said, his translator making his confusion clear. Your service ended. On Earth, Kim informed the surrounded Purifier commander, retirement doesn't mean we stop being who we are. It just means we choose when and how we serve. Around the room, men and women who had built new lives as farmers, teachers, engineers, and doctors stood ready to defend their home with the skills they had never forgotten. They were not soldiers anymore, they were something the aliens found even more frightening, warriors by choice rather than by order. 3 days after the attack began, the colony's sensors detected multiple ships entering the system. People held their breath, wondering if more attackers were coming. Admiral Kim stood at the main viewing screen, her face tense but calm. Those are Confederation ships, she said after studying their patterns. Not more purifiers. The defenders of Harmony Colony had held out against impossible odds. They had lost 12 people, with many more injured, but they had fought the attackers to a standstill. Now the Purifier forces were in retreat, trying to reach their ships. Their commander, Lozo, sat under guard in what had been the colony's small jail. The Confederation fleet landed outside the colony's damaged perimeter. Their ships were larger and more official-looking than the Purifier vessels. When the main door opened, a delegation of aliens emerged, led by a tall figure in elaborate robes. I am Mediator Su of the Galactic Confederation, the alien announced through a translator device. We received your distress signal. I see we are too late to prevent conflict. Kim stepped forward. I am Admiral Kim, retired from Earth Fleet. The attack has been contained. We have prisoners. Sue's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of confusion in her species. You are military command here? No, Kim explained. I am a resident visiting my grandson. But I coordinated our defense. The mediator requested a full report of what had happened. In the colony's community center, now serving as both command post and medical overflow, Kim explained how the Purifier faction had attacked without warning. Sue observed the humans moving around the room. Many were bandaged or limping, but all were working to repair damage or help others. One man was fixing communication equipment while a woman nearby coordinated supply distribution. I don't understand, said Sue as she surveyed the aftermath. Your military database, which we accessed before coming, listed only 12 active personnel assigned to this colony. Yet you defeated a force 3 times your size. Kim smiled slightly. We had more than 12 defenders. She gestured around the room where people were working. That man fixing the communications system was a signals officer for 20 years. The woman distributing supplies commanded a logistics battalion. The doctor treating wounds was a combat surgeon. Sue's confusion was visible even through her alien features. But your records show them as civilians. They are civilians, Kim said. They're also veterans. Earth doesn't waste experience. We retire from positions, not from responsibility. Sue walked with Kim through the colony as the retired admiral explained. They passed a group repairing a collapsed wall. A gray-haired man was showing younger colonists how to properly brace the structure. That's Teacher Juan, Kim explained. He teaches science to children now, but he was a combat engineer for 15 years before that. When the attack came, he organized teams to create barriers and traps. They continued walking and saw a woman tending to wounded aliens under guard. Dr. Nam, Kim said. She's treating your captured purifiers with the same care she gives our people. She served as a medical officer on 3 different space stations before coming here to run our clinic. Throughout the tour, Sue became increasingly troubled. In all Confederation species, she finally said, military personnel are never fully integrated into civilian life. When service ends, they undergo treatments to remove combat instincts and tactical thinking. It makes them safe. Kim stopped walking. Safe? Or unable to defend themselves? Your entire species exists in a state of military readiness, asked Sue with newfound concern. Always prepared for war? Not readiness, Kim corrected. Capability. There's a difference between those eager for conflict and those prepared for it. When they reached the detention area, Commander Lozo sat behind a force field. He hissed when he saw Kim. "You tricked us," he said angrily. "You hid your warriors." "We hid nothing," Kim replied. "You assumed that retired meant useless." Mediator Sue spoke to Lozo in their own language for several minutes. The conversation seemed heated at times. Finally, Sue turned back to Kim. "The Purifiers acted without Confederation approval," she said. "They will face justice for this attack. But this incident has highlighted something important. We truly do not understand human society." Kim nodded. "And we don't fully understand yours. That's not a reason for fear, it's a reason for learning." As they walked back to the center of the colony, Sue watched the humans working together to rebuild. For the first time, she began to see that what the Confederation had feared as military infiltration of civilian life might actually be something else entirely, a society where everyone was valued for their full life experience, not just their current role. "Perhaps," Sue said slowly, "we have been observing Earth through the wrong lens." On the Confederation capital world, the Grand Council chamber buzzed with tension. Representatives from 27 species filled the circular room. The attack on Harmony Colony was the only topic on their agenda. Mediator Sue stood before them, her official robes replaced by simpler clothing that showed respect for the seriousness of the situation. "The Purifiers acted without authority," she stated clearly. "But their fear came from our collective misunderstanding of human society." The recorded images from the colony played on large screens. The council members watched as ordinary-looking humans organized defenses and fought back against trained Purifier soldiers. "We thought they were hiding military assets," Sue continued. "In reality, they simply don't discard experience the way we do." Commander Lozo and his captured soldiers stood in a containment field, awaiting the council's judgment. "Did you know," Sue asked them directly, "that the human who captured you was a school teacher? And the one who treated your wounds had not served in their military for 15 years? The council debated for 3 days. Finally, they reached 2 decisions. First, the Purifiers would face justice for their unsanctioned attack. Second, the Confederation would officially apologize to Earth and revise their diplomatic approach. "We have been watching Earth through fear," the head counselor admitted. "Perhaps it is time we watched with curiosity instead." 2 months later, a Confederation diplomatic vessel arrived at Earth. This time, it came not to observe from a distance but to extend a formal invitation for Earth to join as a provisional member. "Your defense of Harmony Colony showed us something we had not considered," the head counselor told Earth's leaders. "A society can maintain its defensive capability without maintaining a constant war footing." Earth accepted the invitation, and work began to bridge the cultural gap that had led to such misunderstanding. 6 months after the attack, Admiral Kim stood on the speaking platform of the Confederation Council. Her retirement had taken an unexpected turn when Earth's government asked her to serve as the first human ambassador. "Humans don't separate our lives into disconnected chapters," she explained to the gathered representatives. "What we learn, we carry forward. Those who serve don't stop serving, we just change how we contribute." Many council members still looked uneasy at this concept. In their cultures, strict divisions between military and civilian life had existed for thousands of years. "But how do you prevent militarization of your entire society?" asked a representative with feathered arms. "By remembering that defense is not the same as aggression," Kim answered. "Our veterans know the cost of conflict better than anyone. They are often our strongest voices for peace." To help bridge understanding, a cultural exchange program began. Confederation representatives lived among human communities while humans visited alien worlds. On a Confederation world, an alien family hosted a retired human pilot. They were nervous at first, wondering if he might be dangerous. "Do you miss flying military ships?" their child asked him one evening. "Sometimes," the pilot admitted. "But now I teach others to fly, and that brings its own joy. I haven't stopped using what I learned, I just use it differently now." Slowly, understanding grew on both sides. At a new joint training facility established near Saturn, humans and aliens trained together. They shared not just combat techniques but philosophies about service and duty. After one training session, a young alien recruit named Tello approached his human instructor. The human had gray hair and walked with a slight limp from an old injury, but moved with surprising speed during demonstrations. "May I ask a personal question?" Tello said hesitantly. "What happens when you retire?" "In my culture, we undergo treatments to remove combat instincts." "Will you do the same?" The instructor smiled. "That's when we truly become dangerous, because we no longer answer to anyone but our own conscience." Seeing Tello's worried expression, he added, "Dangerous doesn't mean violent. It means we're free to use our judgment. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is choose peace when others want war." Across human space, life continued. The veterans of Earth's various services tended gardens, taught children, built communities, and yes, kept weapons within reach. Not because they sought conflict, but because they had learned its cost. On Harmony Colony, Admiral Kim's grandson started school again in the rebuilt classroom. His teacher was a former Marine who now taught mathematics. "My grandma says aliens don't understand us," the boy said during a lesson. The teacher smiled. "They're learning. And we're learning about them too. That's how peace works." Outside the classroom window, a Confederation observer watched with fascination as the teacher, who had fought bravely during the colony's defense, now patiently helped children understand equations. The observer was beginning to understand what humans had been trying to explain all along. The end.